UN Copter Coverups for October 17th. At 12:47 p.m., a red copter approached, and there's something that I'm not completely sure about one of these route lines. So I've noticed that people are actually putting it together for me. So this is one of those instances. So they flew the red copter, and basically it flew in the same line as the event where they flew over my house at 11 p.m. at night and then led me down the street and then tried to spotlight me on Caladad. And since then they've tried to make that a route where he peels off of his fake routine circle around the neighborhood that goes over 24092 and all the other hotspots and peels out from the park and goes over my house, and they fly in both directions. But the red copter that would be probably called a civilian, but he's also flying this police route, so it doesn't make sense. So some of these instances make it seem that, oh, I'm only piecing it together now. I think that they started to actually say that it was a civilian route as well, because there's an event that on the 18th, I think, when they flew the police copter and a silenced blue copter to cover up for the UN, but also I guess to make it a civilian route as well as a police route, and that might have been caused by this situation. So the red copters are cover-ups for the UN copters, because after a while they started just sending out the red painted black copters. So it crossed over my street. It came from the end of my street on the opposite side, so from around 24091, opposite of the transformer fire. And then my phone sucked and I was trying to get it to work, so I would have ran down the street and got under him, but it didn't work in time, so I only ran down a couple houses. But he stalled, and then it was like he was asking if you should continue over or if you should go around the back. So that was a personal interaction, and then he tried to go left and then around 24162 next door, and then he tried to cross over my backyard, but I got up on the wall and tried to record him. And so that was the red copter. And also I had to delete many red copter videos, and then there are a whole bunch more that I just showed people on live feed. And then before that there were a whole bunch that I didn't do anything about because I was told by you know who. And then at 4:13 there was a fake UN copter doing circles and hanging out as if it were a civilian, all gleeful, behind 24191 across the street and the tree. So they were trying to hide from me, first of all, and use that area. And secondly, it's because some of the earlier videos of the UN copter cover-ups show the helicopter flying around 24191 and crossing up over my street and flying behind it. But the problem with that is that those videos weren't at dusk, and so they keep trying to fly helicopters in that same line at dusk so that there's a silhouette, so that they say that that's all I recorded. But a lot of those videos from that area were during the daytime. I was trying to play soccer, and it was like 10 a.m. or 12, and so that's kind of stupid too. So this guy, and I wasn't aware of this at the time, but they were trying to sell the fact that that hill right there is the reason why the military copter turned away from my screen when I was recording him. And that wasn't the only time. One time they did U-turns. There was multiple, and they did a U-turn because they're sitting there, everyone's watching my screen, and they're like, turn right, don't go through there. He's going to record two of you flying 50 feet off the ground. And so this guy was doing all kinds of neurotic stuff, and at the time when I wrote this and looked at it, I thought he was just a civilian pretending to be a civilian, because when they started acting like the Cessnas were civilians, they did gleeful left and right swoops. So I thought that this is what he was doing, but what he was actually doing, and I'm recording this on the 30th of October, so on the 29th of October, the police helicopter did something similar. Basically, if you take a circle and then you put the hill on the diameter, they would do circles where you would ascend on one side of the circle and then descend on the other, and it looks awkward and difficult, and it looks ridiculous and doesn't make sense. And the UN copter is doing some of this, and the reason for that is because that would be the most extreme to sell the fact that it's a hill for ascension and descension, because just flying over, like, basically that's like the extreme. Because if you just flew over once, it wouldn't be an assured thing. But what could be more assured with the helicopter than doing circles and selling it like that? So that's why they do it, to solidify it as much as they can. And so he was doing all things like that around the hill. And then he was pumping and doing pulse accelerations, and he was hiding from me. Then he would move, and then so I ran around the end of Solero Oliveira and then down Oliveira a tiny bit to shoot through the side yards of some of the houses, and he moved away from me, and then I ran back, and then he went left to right down the helicopter pocket if you're looking across the street from my house. So that was to sell the hill for the military copter turn, and also for the UN copter, the June 1st cover up, because after this, a couple of days after this, they came out with the blue UN copter without the engine compartment cover on the bottom so that it would rattle loudly, and they flew it and then descended over that hill behind 24181, and it's not really a hill at all. I shouldn't be calling it that. And so because they tried to really sell the fact that it's a mountain to account for the altitude of the June 1st threat, and which is only one of so many. So